Hi, friends. It's your girl. It's me, Chibi Carrera. Hello, and welcome back to Running Through Wonderland. We are here raising money for Alice's gender affirming surgery, and I get to come in after we've raised $2,001. What? Y'all, that is absolutely incredible. You are doing amazing. I am so proud of you. You should be so proud of yourselves. We are ready for our next run of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 with Nerd Squared, all stages out of bounds. I don't know anything about Poppy Playtime except that it might involve a doll, and also my D&D character's name is Poppy, but so I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be an absolutely fantastic run. Go ahead, Nerd, and show us what you're working with.
All right. I think we're good. Hey, I'm Nerd. I run a bunch of different stuff, mainly sticking with horror. And I'll be doing some Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 tonight. And it's interesting that I get to do Poppy for this marathon in particular, because I noticed in preparing for this marathon, there's a lot of crossover with the staff and people watching between this and GDQ. And I just so happened to have done a run of this game at that event at SGQ with any percent. So if you've seen the any percent run from there, this is basically an extended version of that. What I'll be doing tonight is a little category called All Stages, which basically means I'll be doing like 4 to 5 different main areas of the game. There's the intro, obviously, the gas production zone, home sweet home, playhouse, and school. They're like kind of attached together in one area, and then the counselor's office at the end. Um, and if you thought the run at SGQ was broken, where we just skipped straight to the end of the game, and I know the host earlier was saying they haven't seen this run before, you're in for a treat, because the tricks we can do in this game, as you'll see here, are just absolutely bonkers. Because in addition to this being all stages, this is out of bounds, like the SGQ run does. And it's a bit of a weird terminology, but just basically you think of out of bounds as anything goes as far as glitch tech is concerned. So you're going to see, basically going to see this game get broken wide open. So yeah, we will get right into the intro. By the way, this is kind of an episodic horror series, which is why there's a chapter-by-chapter release. And of course, we're playing Chapter 3. This takes place, of course, directly where Chapter 2 ends off. At the end of that chapter, we took a train to get out of this basically haunted toy factory. And here we're going to get tossed down the trash chute by Catnap, who's kind of the main antagonist of this chapter. We'll be seeing him quite a lot. And I'll pause real quick here because this intro goes by pretty fast and I have to take a second to explain this. There's some audio cues I'll be listening for with some sirens that are blaring in the background. I have to listen to that for a count of 7 just to line up some global cycles. So I'll do a countdown from 6 to start off the run here, and then when we get to go, which is when 7 will be in the countdown, that's when we'll start. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so the reason why I waited at the start there, even though it seemed unnecessary, is what I was kind of alluding to with global cycles. Obviously, we start this game being tossed down a trash chute, and it's a pretty cool intro, actually. We get to run around this machinery that's in the background of the trash compactor. But the pistons in that trash compactor run on a global cycle, which begins as soon as the intro cutscene starts. And by waiting for a few seconds there, it just lines up the pistons, so I don't have to wait for them as long. And right there, you're supposed to do a tutorial where you learn about platforming and puzzles. Instead, I'm going to go over here and do our first prop hover, which is something that we've seen a lot of in this run. It's kind of the main glitch that we do in this category. I have to do with this chair right here, which can be a little uncooperative, but thankfully it's going okay. Prop hovers are very volatile in this game, as you'll see throughout this run. But it's about to get even crazier because we're going to set up on top of that chair, actually lower the FPS here to 15, and then drag the chair underneath our feet. That'll make us fly for a little bit. And then as we're flying up, I'm going to jump off the chair. That'll rock me up in the sky because of some weird physics interaction with the chair. and then I hit that checkpoint so that I can load it to get back in bounds here. And before that, I set the FPS to 60 just so that the game isn't super choppy. Prop flies, which again we'll be doing a lot of. The frame rate they have to do them at. Hold on, real quick puzzle here. The frame rate you have to do them at depends on the prop you're doing the prop fly with. And for these big prop flies I'm doing with the chairs, 15 FPS is best for those. So I'll open the tram here that just activates the load trigger that I'm going to hit in a second. And you're supposed to do a pretty lengthy ride on this tram that gives you a lot of exposition about why you're heading where you're headed, which is called the Playcare. It's kind of the main hub of this chapter. Instead, I'm going to do a prop fly similarly to what I just did to skip the tutorial. Skip the entire train ride, and also a little bit of puzzling that we'd have to do once we get into the Playcare. Like I said, prop flies can be very volatile. Setting up the chair in this tunnel can be annoying because, as you can see, it likes to flop around a lot as you try to set it up on the lip of the tunnel in this concrete, or lip of the concrete in this tunnel right here. It also likes to do this where it just like bounces on some seemingly invisible collision on that lip of the concrete right there. So hope it cooperates, which can be, as you're seeing, the chair can be a little finicky. It looks better. Right. So positioning on these isn't super precise. We still have to get like a generally good position to be able to prop fly, and even then sometimes it just doesn't work. That's how volatile the prop flies are. And just like before, I'm going to jump off the chair while at low FPS. I kind of did a weird strafe movement right there to try to get some more forward momentum. Because that big dome right there that I'm flying towards is the Playcare. It's where we're trying to go. And if I end up cutting the jump a little short, I have to run on the rocks, which slows me down quite a bit. So on 90%, we go to that red tunnel right there to skip straight to the first area. But this is all stages. We have to do all the main areas. So we have to actually go in the Playcare and access the gas production zone properly. But I'm taking a small detour here for a skip I'll describe in a second after I do it, because it's pretty precise. I'm basically going to try to hit this switch on this little platform here as I fall down. Might have been a little too far to the left, we'll see. Yeah, unfortunately we didn't get it. What I was trying to do there is activate the switch that was on that platform right there. That would cause a cutscene, or not a cutscene, but would cause the little generator that's on there to power on, which would give us a key for a later area in the game. And it will allow us to skip a sort of, but kind of not cutscene. Unfortunately, I didn't get it there. It is a little precise. You have to, of course, the camera positioning is pretty precise for it. And you have to shoot the grab pack, which are these hands I'm using right here, signature Mechanica copy, in a specific window to be able to hit that switch. But that's fine. We can just move on without it. We'll lose less than a minute later on, but okay. It's not the end of the world. So now we're in the first proper area. Like I was saying, there's 5 main areas, and this is the first one, the gas production zone. This is not too much going on here, honestly. It's essentially a tutorial area, kind of like the beginning was a tutorial for general movement and how puzzles work. This is a mechanic going to be in our tutorial for the power-ups in this game. Because in addition to the 2 hands of the grab pack, there's a bunch of power-ups you can apply to the right hand of the grab pack. That purple hand I just grabbed right there is, I don't know what they're actually called in the game. So we just call it the purple hand. It lets you jump on these special pads with the hand imprint on them, basically acting as a springboard. So you've seen quite a few puzzles in this game, and you'll see a few of those in the run. I'll do a little shortcut right here. There we go. You're supposed to drag that spring pad platform all the way over to be able to make that jump. If you run and then shoot the purple hand at the very edge of that jump pad, you can make it over without having to drag the platform all the way over. Saves a few seconds there. Oh yeah, it's another puzzle mechanic that I didn't touch on because it was in a bit of a hectic section. You shoot the grab pack at those blue panels, and it'll redirect the grab pack to go to an electric socket. We won't see too many puzzles in this run because of the amount of stuff we skip. But you'll see that a few times. There's some pretty cool strats you get to do with some of the puzzles. At least the ones we do as intended. So that's the gas production zone done. I did a little trick there where I waited until the monitor there played out. What's happening there is at the end of the gas production zone, we flip on that machine that moves over a substance called the red smoke, which is kind of our end goal of the game, is to move over that red smoke to defeat Catnap that I was talking about before. But in the process of doing that, the power went out. So now our goal is to go to the other 4 main areas that I mentioned before, to get power cords from the front of each of the entrance of the main areas, to actually power on a generator, to be able to move the red smoke finally. And now I'll be going to probably my favorite area in the game. Not speedrun-wise, although there is some cool tricks here that you'll see later. But just for the atmosphere aspect of it. Because the thing with Poppy, at least broadly speaking, is that it was kind of like FNAF back in the day, where it was made fun of as a horror game for kids, and it's not really that scary. So I guess Mob Entertainment took that to heart and absolutely cooked. The atmosphere in this game is amazing. Like, besides the Silent Hill 2 remake that came out recently, it's probably one of my favorite horror game right now. Like, Mob Games put their all into it, and I'm a big fan of Poppy in general. So it's just nice to see this game pop off in the design aspect. Speedrun-wise, though, it's not too interesting, because it's a lot of pretty straightforward movement, to be honest. Although there's a bit of navigation I'm doing right here, because this area that I'm walking in, this haunted mansion, it's essentially one big maze. And if you go the wrong direction in the maze, the game will do a brief animation where it teleports you to the right fork in the path to kind of force you to go the right way. Also, Catnap does something interesting here. He just disappears. He's supposed to disappear anyway when he gets close to you, but since we're running when the game doesn't expect us to, we activate that a little early. Which, by the way, that's another thing to bring up. You're not supposed to be running in this section. Like I said, it's a haunted maze, so you're supposed to be just walking through here and taking in the atmosphere. But if you hold run going into this section and don't let go, you're able to run the entire time.
This is me running away from my problems.
Pretty much. Like, I won't get into it too much, but this section actually alludes to a huge amount of lore behind the scenes. Speaking of which, we have a 2-minute unskippable cutscene, because this is a tape that you're forced to watch. I know, unfortunately, we didn't meet the Hundo incentive. We at least get to watch one. This is a 2-minute unskippable cutscene. It's roughly 2 minutes anyway. Because you have to watch this tape to progress through the game. You cannot skip past it in any way. There is actually a skip to get past this entire section, which involves doing that switch drop I was trying to do at the start, but at the moment it's not viable for speedruns because of routing stuff.
So I hear unskippable cutscene and my host ears perk up a little bit.
Yeah, why don't you read something out?
So we have just opened up a new incentive for a game coming up later this evening, Silent Hill Homepour. We are trying to unlock a surprise ending and all bosses new game plus. This is going to upgrade the categories for both runs that Schmumbler is performing. So Downpour is going to change from any percent to a surprise ending, and Homecoming will change to any percent new game plus to all bosses new game plus. This is going to significantly increase the time, which of course we always love more marathon and more games, and this is going to increase the input needed in Homecoming while our runner is juggling both games at the same time. This is a milestone incentive. We are looking to raise a total of $2,125, which I know we absolutely can do it, chat.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get those donations in, and let's see some more Silent Hill.
Yeah, can confirm that run is an interesting experience, because I actually did a variant of that run with Outlast instead of Sound No Homecoming, and it was something. All right, so we're out of that cutscene. You saw a nightmare version of Hoogie Woogie, who's kind of the mascot of Poppy Playtime, pop out of that TV. I just waited there in front of that TV while he crawled out, because you're supposed to die there. It's a forced death. You have to die there to proceed. You can't actually outrun the nightmare version of Huggy right there, but you eventually get to the end of a hallway, or you eventually get to a dead end and can't proceed any further. So you do actually have to die to the nightmare version of Huggy there. So if I got the skip earlier, I would have been able to do a really cool out-of-bounds skip here in this level, which is Home Sweet Home proper after the nightmare sequence. But because I didn't get the switch drop earlier, which is, I guess is what I'll call it, I'm not able to do that now. So I have to do this like inbounds route for Home Sweet Home, which is pretty cool still, because there's a couple of optimizations here. For example, with these toy cars, you have to, let it rip like a Beyblade to break open these doors. And as you saw there, you can ride on them to gain a little bit of speed. Minor time saver. So instead of doing the outbound skip, we'll just do that. That's it. You just swing your camera. There's a checkpoint just on the other side of those bars, and you can swing your camera to like very, very barely reach checkpoint on the other side. And we get to do a quick puzzle here, and it involves those electric poles that we saw before, and also these machines, which basically allow us to interact with multiple instances of these electric poles at once. Because obviously this whole puzzle would be too much for one Playtime co-employee to handle on their own, so we need some assistance there. It's not too hard of a puzzle, but it can be annoying if it goes awry. And so we got that puzzle. That'll activate the generator that we need to activate for Home Sweet Home. We'll take this elevator to get on. I'll jump on the railing as a small shortcut. Alright, now we'll get out of Home Sweet Home. Not too bad, honestly, although I would have liked to do the out-of-bounds there, because the out-of-bounds in that level is a really cool trick where you do a prop hover like I was doing with the chair, but on a big toy block, and it's really cool because like you can do some camera manipulation to steer the blocks, make it a bit more cooperative. I did say the prop flies were volatile, and they are, but there are ways to make them behave a bit better.
Could help you get this far. He's the reason we found
Also,
you
that's
at all.
Poppy and Kissy returning from Chapter 2. We won't see them, obviously, because we, well, we will see them here because we have to watch the cutscene. I forgot about that. But they're coming back here from Chapter 2, like I said, because they're basically supporting us in trying to defeat what's called the prototype, which is essentially the big bad of Poppy. So yeah, this is what I was trying to skip earlier by doing the switch drop, because we have to wait for them to open this case to turn on an elevator that's in below this platform right here. Then we have to ride it up and turn on the generator. But the cool thing about that is you get to see an extra skip. Well, it's not really a skip, it's more of a minor shortcut, but yeah. So I have to stand in the corner very carefully here. Okay. Because if you stand on certain spots in this elevator, Poppy and Kissy just deload. So you don't have many options for getting off this elevator when it goes back down, which is way slower.
We can get revenge on those monsters who've tortured you. Tortured us. Didn't have to know.
Also, before I do anything else, I need to switch the FPS to 120. Because the skip to get off this elevator after I turn on this generator is I'm going to try to jump on Poppy's head, and it might just be a placebo effect or something, but I found that if you try jumping on her head while at 120 FPS, the collision works out a bit better when you try to jump on her. Oh, there we go. So I just jump on her head to get on top of the elevator, and we're off. I need to change the FPS back to 75, though, because there's a skip I'll be doing in the next section coming up called The School. That requires 75 FPS to work. similar to the skip I described in Home Sweet Home, where we're doing it with a toy block, but it requires, again, 75 FPS to work. So I'll put that plug in from the school into that generator in the basement. I'll grab that key, that'll let us go into the school. And I'll be honest, I know we had that incentive for 100% going, but I'm honestly half happy it didn't get met, because all stages has a couple of tricks that are really cool that are unfortunately exclusive to this category, and the one you're about to see is one of them. Because in 100% there's 6 notes you'd have to grab here, and obviously we don't have to get that here. And the premise of this skip is I'm going to grab this toy block right here. I'm going to drag it and set it up in this room over here. What I'm going to try to do to start the skip is I'm going to, first of all, get the blocks up in a specific spot. So that way I can grab the toy block when I get to the vents up above here.
I recognize you. Yes, I remember. This is Mr. Light speaking. Please excuse the interruption.
Alright.
Students, remain in your seat until the bell has rung. And
So
no
this can be a
going in the
little
hall
finicky,
without-
depending on how the prop physics work. The toy block can just drag me to the floor when I try to hover here, so let's see what happens. Okay, behaved pretty well. So we hover up in the vents with that toy block, and we're out of bounds. Also, these two are just vibing out of bounds. That's Mr. Light, A-posing right there. That's kind of the main boss of this chapter. The way you're supposed to progress here is you go in bounds, hitting a bunch of electric switches. And then at the end, you'd have a chase scene with Mr. Light right there. It's pretty cool, actually. Some really cool mechanics there, and definitely good horror set piece, but fortunately, we have to skip it. And I'm then going to set up the toy block against the wall here. I'd set it up in a certain way there so that doesn't fly around all over the place. So I'll hover up against that wall to get on the roof here, which is a little tricky, but thankfully it went well. I'm going to use this toy block that I brought with me from that last skip to go over that wall. I'm going to try to drop it in here. There we go. We just skipped all the school. We skipped having to explore in bounds. And we also skipped having to do the chase with Mr. Light. And I grabbed our second hand power-up right there, and also the last power-ups that we'll get in the run. It's effectively a flare gun that'll let us see better in some darker areas later on in the game. We only really use it for one area coming up, but still pretty useful. Also, I'm jumping out of bounds here. You can pretty easily get out here by just jumping on that railing. Let's begin to this puzzle a little early. And I'm going to do a pretty cool trick here involving the jump pads. Well, not the jump pads, but involving that panel. There we go. So, it turns out those blue panels on the electric poles I was talking about before, those are actually proper physics objects that you can stand on. And if you jump off them at the right time as they're swinging back up, you get rocketed in the sky. Not as much as with the chair flings, but still pretty high. Now let's go over that fence and skip a puzzle. And when I go into the next area, I'm going to switch over to 30 FPS for another prop fly skip. Because the next area we'll be going into is the Playhouse. I mentioned there's 4 or 5 different main areas. Kind of in the 4th one, sort of. And we come across a new enemy here called the Smiling Critters. And there's normally a lot more of these we'd encounter as we go through the Playhouse, and then there's a chase we'd have to do involving a mascot in this game named Dog Day. Really good chase, by the way. Such a good set piece in the game. But instead, I'm going to take this toy block and go back with me. Because similarly to when I did that prop fly in the school, I'm going to do a similar thing here. But it's a lot riskier for reasons you're about to see. This part isn't too bad, though. I just have to hover up in the middle. Thank you. There we go. I'm going to try to set this up kind of precisely. A good lineup. Alright, so I'm going to line up the hands in the middle there, aim the camera up, and then pull the cube towards me while I'm standing on top of it. And this will hopefully let me fly to the end of the stage.
This reminds me a lot of the superliminal run in terms of like using the boxes and stuff to get out of bounds.
You know, in a way, it's kind of like that, yeah.
It's very
Yeah,
cool. It's very neat to see.
yeah, and what's scary about that is that, as you kind of saw there, the key was kind of wiggling about as I was flying on it. Also, that's Dog Day right there. Don't worry about it. We have to hit a
I'm
trigger
worrying
here to
about it a
actually
little
get the
bit.
end of the chase.
I'm worrying about it.
It's fine, though. We don't really see that much of him. We just basically skip right to the end of the chase. But yeah, what's scary about that is, as you saw there, as I was flying, the key was kind of wiggling about very wildly. The physics are very volatile with that cube in particular during that prop fly. Also, some blind movement here. Don't worry about it. The prop physics are very volatile with that prop flight in particular, with that toy block at 30 FPS. So you can very easily have situations where where the cube or toy block just decides to not behave and fling you off into the abyss. And what's very scary about that for this category in particular, and really any longer category that uses out of bounds glitch tech, is Chapter 3 really doesn't like when you skip things, and because it's one of those games where it really doesn't like you skipping checkpoints. And the way it decides to handle that is the rest of the checkpoints after the one you skipped just don't activate. You can still hit story triggers and stuff to progress through the game, as you're seeing me do here. The checkpoints that go along with them just won't activate. So there's a instance for some out of bounds later on where I have to say load and autosave if I mess up. It would put me all the way back at school. So if that happens, I will have to load a backup autosave, but hopefully we don't have to, because at that point it might be pushing estimate. But we'll see. Counselor's office, that's the area we're in right now. That's the fifth and final main area for the big conclusion to the game. And it's a pretty simple area, not a whole lot going on here, although there's a trick I'm going to try to do with this puzzle right here. So line it up on the edge of that jump block, and there we go. So you're supposed to do some puzzles there involving, again, more electric pole shenanigans, but with some platforming to make it more difficult. And what I did instead is I did a jump, or just a jump, I guess, on the very edge of that jump pad, because for whatever reason, if you do a jump with the purple hand on the edge of one of those jump pads, instead of getting vertical momentum like you're supposed to with jump pads, you get horizontal momentum instead. So I do that horizontal jump trick on that jump pad, gives me enough momentum to get across, and that lets us skip a puzzle there. Counselor's office actually doesn't have any huge tricks in terms of out of bounds. It's a lot of inbounds tricks, which is pretty cool to see. Also, earlier when I put this battery in the door from outside, I pulled the battery out as I went into this section. So that way, when we get back to this room, it's on that table right there, which is where its original spawn is, and that just lets us pick it up a bit quicker. Speaking of breaking stuff while in bounds, we're going to break this puzzle in a pretty interesting way. So I'm going to do this first phase of the puzzle as normal, but with my grab pack attached to the battery there. And just watch closely what happens to this battery. There we go. It just went jumbo-sized.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason that happens is because when you complete the first part of that puzzle, all of the props that you use for the puzzle are supposed to go to their original spawns. Which, in the battery's case there, is right on top of the platform. But we interrupted that process by holding onto the grab pack with holding onto the battery with our grab pack, which for some reason makes it go jumbo-sized. And you can actually see it poking through the wall right here when you put it in there. Really funny effect. It's also a really cool Easter egg right here in this room. There we go. That's Bunzo right there. That's one of the mascots from Chapter 2 of Poppy. When you leave that room, he just walks to the right there after you leave. It's a really cool Easter egg. And I'm going to do what doesn't look like a big skip, but it is. I just run myself up against that door. Normally there's supposed to be a cutscene right there, like normally a 4-minute unskippable cutscene, where you get a big lore dump about what exactly is going on in the play care. And obviously we don't want to watch that. But the trigger, similarly to when I was jamming myself through the bars in the window in Home Sweet Home, you can do the same thing against that door to hit the checkpoint, or story trigger, I guess, is more accurate, that you would get after that cutscene. So that way we can progress through the game without having to watch it. I'm grabbing both of these plugs here. These are the last 2 plugs I need to plug into this generator. And listen closely there. You heard that thunk just a second ago? There's supposed to be a battery that spawns there. But again, the checkpoints broke, like I explained earlier. And when the checkpoints break, the big battery you're supposed to take there doesn't spawn. And that's a problem, because we need to take this elevator in the gas production zone, which we'll be returning to get to the final boss. So you might be wondering, hey, how are you going to get to the final boss? Answer is more prop flies. If you saw the any percent run that I did at SDQ, this is the same exact trick. It's just a little harder, oddly enough. Specifically because of the lighting. It just makes setting up this barrel a little harder. And this trick, which the community has affectionately called Barrel Vader, is the bane of every Chapter 3 runner's existence. Because it's, like with the other prop flies, a little inconsistent depending on how the prop decides to behave, in this case the barrel. And for any percent, obviously you're playing the game really optimally and can't afford to make many mistakes in order to save time. So in an 80% run of this, failing this prop fly at all, which is already a pretty finicky prop fly to begin with, as you're seeing, very annoying. Thankfully, though, there's some geometry here I can set up on if the barrel decides to fly out my grip, which is most commonly what happens. It either flies out of your grip or the barrel spins around so much that it's just very hard to control and you end up falling off. But that's okay, because we made it up. I hit a low trigger right there, and that puts me into the final boss fight of the game. We've completed all the main stages as advertised, so we just now have to do the final boss. I switched to the wrong hand. Oopsie. And this final boss, I like to call Playtime Co. Tower Defense, because what this is it's a 3-minute timed survival section. You can see the time remaining on that monitor right there in the middle. And how this survival section works is Catnap is going to attack me from these 4 lanes that you can see right there. I'll be checking these quite a bit throughout the fight just to see where he is. And I have to defend myself by spraying some traps with these electric panels around the arena, which is usually is called a smoke right here. And that's basically the long and short of this fight, put very simply. Depending on where Catnap goes, I can do a pretty silly strat, but it depends on where Catnap decides to go. So I just have to watch very carefully where Catnap is. You'll see me shoot the flare gun occasionally, because in addition to Catnap going after me, several fake versions of Catnap will try to get me as well. And there's a few different ways to tell if the Catnap coming after you is a fake or not. I was kind of close. I had to get that. I got that thing was a powered electric node by mistake. But yeah. A way to tell if Catnap is... There's a few ways to tell if the Catnap that's coming after you is fake. One way is to use the flare gun, like I was just doing. But you can also walk up and see if the camera is shaking when you look at Catnap. If the camera is shaking, then it's the real Catnap, and if it isn't, then it's the fake one. And I was talking about wanting a specific spawn from Catnap. This is it right here. Because this is another trap you can go for, which is this vent in the middle of the arena. And how this specific trap works is obviously he's playing hide and seek with you right now, or I guess peekaboo is more accurate. And to make him go away, you're supposed to close the lid of this hatch. But since he doesn't go away unless you close the hatch, you can just keep opening and closing the hatch without completely closing it over and over and keep him stun locked in this one spot. This makes the fight a whole lot safer. Because since there's only one real catnap, obviously, that can be on the map at any given time. So if we just keep him stun locked in this spot, he won't move. And we can basically trivialize the fight.
This is still horrifying.
Oh yeah, like I mentioned earlier about how they up the horror elements. Catnap's, like, I guess, hallucinated design here is terrifying. The catnap right here next to me is cute and cuddly, but this one is not. And we'll just keep him in that hatch until about 10 seconds on the timer. That gives us enough time for this electric node to charge, which is why I was placing the batteries. There we go. Yeah, the green hand, then immediately shoot him. That'll electrify him, therefore killing him.
I feel like the developers saw the ceiling cat meme and they're like, hey, you know what we should do?
Let's make that an entire enemy, why not? It's okay, he's dead now though, so it's fine. There's some lore stuff going on here, but basically that's the prototype right there, that floating robotic arm. Lore stuff, the catnap there is kind of loyal to the prototype because of lore stuff. The person that became catnap got in this accident, it's a whole thing. But yeah, that's the final boss done right there. We have one more skip to do still though, which I will need to go to 75 FPS for this time. Because after we defeat the final boss there with catnap, we go down here, activate the red smoke, which is our goal this whole time, and then after we do that, we're supposed to watch a 4-minute unskippable cutscene that gives a big lore dump regarding something in the lore called the Hour of Joy. It's basically this, like, catalyst that kicks off the plot of the main series as a whole. But instead, I'm going to grab this gas can. Hopefully it decides to behave, otherwise we might be in trouble. Okay. Looks fine. Trying to grab inside that barrel over there. It's not being very cooperative, though. There we go. So he needs to grab that barrel over there in one hand, and grab this gas can in the other. Because what I'm basically going to try to do here is try to grab the gas can while the wires of the grab pack here at the maximum length that they can go to, so that I can get some weird physics interaction where the prop is a lot floatier when I try to drag it.
Good, you're here. And you've done it again. The impossible. Just like I knew you would. Catnap's gone.
Hopefully.
The red smoke
Did we
is
get it?
diverted.
Alright, we got it. So you can see how when the gas can falls down right there, it's a lot floatier than it was before, where it was acting all hectic and erratic. And we need that floaty physics glitch because just below us on this elevator is a trigger that causes the elevator to go down and then back up as part of the cutscene. And I need to be very careful when doing this, flying down and then up to hit the trigger, because below me is a death plane this entire time. And if I hit that, it's all over. So I'll fly up there to give myself enough height, and then I'll start floating down on the gas can. That's fine, that can happen sometimes. Manage to readjust. Sometimes the gas can just get stuck on the lip of the elevator right there. That beam that sticks out of the elevator can be a big problem point. So we do a death to flying out of bounds here to get up onto the elevator. Like I said, that'll cause a cutscene to trigger, which will lead to the end of the game, hopefully. There we go. Stepped on the elevator and we're in the ending cutscene. And time will be in a little bit when the screen cuts to black. Time.
GG, good job.
Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get the power switch skip, which lost me a little bit of time, but it's fine. I still showed off the run pretty good way. I think that felt pretty clean for the most part.
I agree. That was very fun
Yeah.
to watch and very interesting commentary. Excellent job.
Yeah, because like here's the thing, right? It's a very volatile run, like I said, so it's just hard to get everything to go right. And my consistency from the HGQ run held up, I think. Like I made that look easy, but it's actually very hard, all the skips I was doing, especially that last one. So glad that went as well as it did.
All right, well, once again, excellent job. Do you want to tell everybody here where they can find you to watch more of your content?
Yeah, so I do a lot of speedruns of games like this. I know I said I do a variety of stuff, but mainly games like this, a bunch of horror stuff. Working on Alan Wake 2 and Still Wakes the Deep soon currently. You can find me at twitch.tv/nerd_squared with a 3 instead of the E in nerd, or NTRD_squared, like I said there in the chat just now. Yeah. I also have a YouTube where I post a bunch of my speedruns, nerd_squared without the 3 in nerd. And while we're here, also I'm gonna pause out of that because that was really loud music in the credits there. My goodness. Real quickly, now that I've shown you where you can find me, I want to give a few quick shout outs. First of all, to Mob Entertainment for making this game. Honestly, I kind of gave my shout out to them making this chapter during Home Sweet Home. This chapter ended up coming out at a time where it was in a bit of a mental health threat, so grinding this game helped me get out of that in a way. And I also, in specific, want to shout out, first of all, Osborne for putting on this event. Done a great job with it so far. But also Quincy, who is kind of my partner in crime with speedrunning this game and Chapter 2. She's been very supportive of my speedrun efforts. Same with Slighton101 as well, and I very much appreciate that. And if you thought that was the end of me for this marathon, don't leave just yet, because I'll be here back here in a couple days, running Alan Wake 2, and that's going to be a treat. So definitely stick around for that.
And we are looking forward to it. Thank you so much for being here and showcasing your talent and giving us your time. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Chat, we are going to start getting set up for our next run of Cryostasis with Asher the Horror Girl. We'll be back in just one quick moment. So stick around and vibe to the amazing tunes.